Dolphins number one, baby! Dolphins number one!
I swear, if a certain quarterback is mentioned in the comments, I got my beers ready. I'm going to crack it open.
Or is it the Serbian kid?
Serbian kid!
This was done. Oh my god, it looks fantastic.
I'm the man. I said it, and it's reality. All right.
Congratulations.
What's going on, folks? What's going on? Huddle up and waiters. That's what I call them. Get it? Waiters. Get it? Because they're waiting. Because after I huddle up, no laughs. Anyways. All right. Folks, let's go ahead and get rolling. We got a special guest tonight. Do not pay attention to Bret LaGasee. He's tonight. We have our guest tonight, Mr. John Vogel from NFL Draft Blitz. How you doing tonight, brother?
Great, guys. Thank you for having me. This ought to be fun. This has already been a little bit irreverent, so we should fit right in.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. You're going to fit right in with this.
What's the term? Oh, FUBAR? Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, you're right. You're right. Facts.
All right.
But welcome, folks, again, for go ahead and jumping in. Go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button since you're here. If you haven't already, Josh Wingate, since I see you in the chat, go ahead and do it, even though you're a member of the network. But let's go ahead and jump into some NFL news before we get to some prospects. Aaron Rodgers, my pack, getting traded to the Jets, but I'm okay with it. Get to see Jordan Love. Possibly rumors, Sauce Gardner put on a stream that David Bakhtiari might be a part of the package. So you might have Rodgers and Bakhtiari going to New York. That's what Sauce said on his Twitch stream. We'll see if he was mixing some gin and juice on that show, but
that'd be good for a whole 4 games for Bakhtiari, and then
No, so when he got his knee healthy last year, he was a top 5 left tackle. Didn't let any sacks, QB hits, hurry. He didn't have anything.
You couldn't just let me have the joke, could you?
He was knocked out because he's not what's y'all's left tackle?
Teron Armstead, who's never played a full season in his career.
No, Bakhtiari also had appendicitis. I mean, that was one of the most random things ever.
Yeah, that was kind of
random. He had to sit out for 4 weeks. So, but anyways, yeah, NFL news, that's the biggie. Lamar Jackson not being traded because I think owners are against him. Agents want a piece of the money since he doesn't have an agent and yada, yada. We'll get into that in a minute.
I got something to say on that when we get to it.
Yeah. But the meat and potatoes is Mr. John Vogel. The draft, the prospects rising, falling after the combine. Some having really great days. Some having some days they just want to go, when's my pro day? Because there was some ones that made you go, I'm not doing nothing. Yeah, okay, Josh. Simple Cowboys fan. Okay, John, I got to ask. Who are you a fan of?
So he's doing something.
Well, actually, you might be able to see it on the wall because it's this way. On the wall, it's the Eagles.
Yeah.
So I'm an Eagles fan. I'm a lifelong Philadelphia guy. My mom's from South Jersey. Yeah. So I was a big Hurts guy. I think Brett probably remembers this. Yeah. Before he was drafted, I was preaching all about his stuff, and then he got picked by the Eagles, and I was just over the moon when that happened because, take my favorite player is about to retire. I grew up a Phillip Rivers fan. I was a huge Phillip Rivers fan.
Gosh darn it!
And then, so for him to retire, and then go on to, and then have my favorite team take my favorite player was perfect. So
I remember we had a couple conversations about him.
I remember having a lot of conversations about him with a lot of different people, and most of them were overwhelmingly negative and ended very badly.
I remember we had a couple because I was high on his mental. Like I loved him against Baylor, and I always like Jalen Hurts because he was professional, and most people stomped their feet. He was professional from the time that he got benched and lost the starting job all the way through. Like, even though he got benched in a championship game, he was always supportive. So, and I remember us having a conversation about that. And then him against Baylor, it was like, this kid is so mature. He has a strong arm. He's an athlete. You put the pieces together. If he can put that together, he can be a good quarterback. Well, look what he's done so far. And he keeps getting better every year. So,
Exactly. Yeah. I was talking a little bit with Jason Kelsey at the combine this year, and I asked him about that guy. I said, have you ever seen a guy just be that consistent progressing in your entire career at any position? And he kind of thought for a second, no, I don't think I ever have. And I mean, that's the fact about Jalen. Like, it's just, you absolutely love everything that he did and the way that he grows. And I mean, what he does in the locker room is amazing too. So actually, to answer that question, I saw it down there. It's definitely hate the Cowboys more. Just hate the Cowboys.
Josh, get out.
It's obvious.
Just the Cowboys. So, buy the Cowboys. So
I think every NFC East rival hates the Cowboys the worst. Like the Commanders, the Giants. I'm pretty sure that's going to all be the same answer right there.
I think so, and it's because the Cowboys kind of bring it on themselves, right? Oh, we're America's team. We're number one. Da, da, da. Oh, we won all these Super Bowls. And it was like, it's been 26 years now. Is that right? 26 years since you won one, maybe 27 now. I can't remember.
I remember they had that. Well, the Eagles don't even have one. Like, damn, now they have one.
Exactly. Yeah, right.
They got 3 appearances in less than 20 years.
Almost got 2.
Hold on, John. I got to ask this. So, Brett, what do we have to dust off to go watch the Miami Dolphins Super Bowls?
VHSs.
No, even before
they didn't have VHSs back then.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're talking about reels, man. 35 millimeter reels.
Bingo.
It's all digitalized now.
Well, all right. Enough of the team hating. Look, Josh, we didn't ask for it. Yeah, it was a given name. No, you asked for it, Josh. You're in here screaming Cowboys every dang show. You know what? I got to do Phillip Rivers now. I can't swear tonight. Now that he said Phillip Rivers is his favorite quarterback, I gotta swear.
No,
that's what I'm gonna do the entire show.
But
you know what? I got to go ahead and, like I said, just jump right into it. Meat and potatoes, NFL out of the way, prospects. Before we start with risers, who's your biggest fallers out of the combine?
Yeah, so this is a question I get a lot, and it's really difficult, I think, to point to a specific guy and say, oh, he didn't perform up to expectations, so I'm dropping him. Yeah, and I think it's because I typically tend to set expectations very low on people going into the combine. And the reason that I do that is because, I think that a lot of guys train, and the training facilities that we have that do combine prep for 6, 7, 8 weeks before the combine are phenomenal at what they do. And, different guys are trained guys better. But I just don't go into it with big expectations at all. So that way I'm not really disappointed when somebody doesn't play up to it. So I guess if we're talking about a couple guys that might be falling because of, I also don't think that there's a lot of NFL people that put a lot of weight into what they see at the combine either. It's more of if he doesn't perform up where we thought he was going to, we got to go back to the tape and take another look at it. One of the guys I think that, the media was a little bit higher on coming in than a lot of other people were was Quentin Johnston out of TCU. And it's because sometimes when you watch him play, he's kind of a bigger guy that plays smaller than he is. And I think the other problem that he had is he came in listed even low. He measured in smaller than people thought he was because we thought he was closer to 6'4". Turns out he's closer to 6'2". So that was another kind of hindrance. But you've got a guy that he just doesn't play like he's 6'2". And I see that a lot on the field as well. He can really body some players a little bit better than he does, and you don't see him do that. And then the route tree, I think, is another problem as well. There's not many routes that he ran at TCU with a lot of consistency. It was a curl, it was a slant, it was a go. And then, maybe we're going to run, something, across like a drag. But 3-4 routes that you're running almost exclusively is not a great look when you're talking about a 9-route system. So he's kind of one of the guys I think that the people weren't too wild by. Outside of that, man, I really try not to come in with any expectations. And that way I don't start hating on people because of what I see. And then, I like to be blown away by the athleticism these guys show. But, I'll give you a great example. Charlie Jones out of Purdue just had his pro day too. Mm-hmm. That's not a guy. He ran a 4.43 and you don't see 4.43 on tape at all. You don't see that. All the defensive backs that played against him, they all say the same thing. Oh, he's not a burner. That's not what he does. He's not a burner. And 4.43 is pretty close to being a burner. So he's kind of one of those guys that
speed. Yeah.
Right. And there's not a lot of guys that hit that. But I think he's one of those guys that plays faster without the pads. So those are different things that we kind of look at.
The underwear Olympics, he's really good at. That's what he is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We're talking about
speed-wise. His vertical was pretty average, 36.5. So, he was pretty average vertical. Seems like everything else he was pretty average on. So it's just his speed he overperformed on. But he's more of a shifty guy, isn't he, when you see him?
Yeah, I think he's more of a timing guy. He's a possession receiver that's really great with timing because look at the quarterback he had throwing to him. This is Aiden O'Connell.
Yeah.
And Aiden O'Connell is basically a guy that's going to have to rely on timing and anticipation to make throws to the next level. That's the only thing that he really does. He doesn't have a great arm. He doesn't, throw the ball with a lot of velocity. He's not going to push it way down the field. But he's going to throw it accurately, kind of like, I'm not saying he is this player because obviously nobody is this player, but Joe Burrow-esque in the sense that Burrow is not going to throw the ball 40, 50, 60 yards down the field consistently, but he's going to hit everything within 30.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it's that same type of quarterback that he had thrown to him this year that he had the most production, most success with. And those two go way back. They played travel ball together way back when they were teenagers growing up. So they're very familiar with each other. They've been playing sports together for a long time and had that chemistry already. But that's kind of what you're going to have to replicate to get this guy to be successful at the next level. Somebody on my Twitter said today they compared him to Brendan Stokely. And I thought that was a great comp because Stokely was a guy that struggled when he wasn't with Peyton Manning, who is in this caliber of quarterback, right? This type of quarterback where you have to throw with anticipation and timing. And, that's Charlie Jones.
Now, I saw Kayshon Boutte get a couple negative reviews at the combine, and because a lot of his name's being floated since last year, even if he was in this next class, those early risers last year, and his name was being floated up there, but it was kind of underwhelming because his name, like I said, has been mentioned up there. So,
it's funny because if you had seen my rankings and stuff all year, Boutte's never really been top 50 for me. And that was part of the reason why is because I didn't see a lot of athleticism on tape. I didn't see a lot of different things on tape with him that everybody else was kind of talking about. I thought that Boutte was kind of more of a, kind of like what we're talking about here, a possession receiver. He's not a game changer. He's not Jamar Chase, and he has the injury history as well that's going to hold him back. So the testing didn't surprise me. And I know that there were a lot of people that were talking about him being the first wide receiver off the board. But, I didn't. He's not a guy that I've ever really been high on. I've never had a first round on him at any point in the last couple of years. I think that he's one of those dudes that, we always do a little bit of helmet scouting and as a media entity. Yeah. And LSU's always pumping out good receivers. So it was just expected that, he's flashed in a couple of games. He looks like he's the next big thing. And he's not.
It drives me nuts. When the helmet scouting does drive me nuts because people assume just because they come from a certain school.
This school.
Right. And there's certain schools like Ohio State you can look at and go, okay, yeah, these are great receivers that come out, but look at the coach. Yeah. Right. The coach is Brian Hartline. Brian Hartline does a great job. Doesn't matter who he's coaching with. They build up that system.
Not every single one of them is going to work out either.
No, exactly.
People are kind of watering down what the good ones are. Like, look at Paris Campbell, good player, but he's not he's banged up and he just kind of doesn't have the complete package like the rest.
Yeah, exactly. No, you're good. I get it. And I think Abuka's going to end up kind of falling in that group too, right? Where he's going to be a decent player, but he's not going to be a game changer like everybody thought he was going to be coming out. We'll see next year. I'm sure he'll come out next year.
You need those guys on your roster at the same time because sometimes those guys are good at special teams or just good at doing the dirty work underneath your third and fourth. But you got to be able to separate that. Just because they went to a certain school doesn't mean they're going to be really good or really bad either.
Right. And, I honestly kind of thought that Olave was going to fall in that group, but it looks like I'm kind of wrong. Garrett Wilson's another level, just to name a couple of guys that come out recently. But I think Boutte was a little bit of helmet scouting, to be honest.
They said people were saying he's going to be the first one off the board.
There at one point in time, I think that he was the favorite. He was the betting favorite actually to be the first receiver off the board.
Wow.
So I've got my money's on Zay Flowers. If I'm being honest, I think Zay Flowers first
biggest jumper. Yeah, that was
5'9",
going to be
182, and then ran his 4. Well, everybody knows he's fast, but I mean the fact that he weighed in at 5'9", 182 was like, okay, he's thick.
He's a Steve Smith clone. He's literally Steve Smith in another
Did
generation.
you hear what Steve Smith said about him?
No.
Steve Smith did I have to find a TikTok, but Steve Smith was talking about he didn't care about his height because he doesn't play 5'9", he plays 6'4". Like it's funny because John already mentioned that about a receiver.
You mean he plays
TCU.
like Quentin Johnson?
Yeah,
Johnson
just talk about that. He doesn't play 6'2", he plays smaller, and sometimes that's okay. Like Jerry Rice was what 6'2", I think, but he didn't always have to play that way because he was wide open all the time, so he always got the separation. But like that's okay sometimes, but sometimes you want to be able to use that height and advantage. But Zay Flowers, he plays way taller than he is. I love Zay Flowers. He's explosive and fun. Anybody who's looking at his size, you're overthinking it.
Patriots 14. I just gut feeling. Just a gut feeling. Patriots at 14. That's it.
Don't rip my heart out because that's one of my guys at 15 for the Packers. Barring we don't get more picks from Rodgers, but I'm just saying right now, if we don't get Jackson Smith, that's my guy, Jackson Smith and Jigba. I got a question about him in a second, but Zay Flowers, he's just got, what's that term? He's got the dog in him. He literally does. Like the guy will go up and snag a ball between 3 DBs, go on a crossing route, and then gain another 20 yards off of it. And
you go back to
the Deep game. Yes.
Right?
Yes.
He has that play where he takes I want to say it was a deep post. He catches right over the middle. He makes the first safety move. He pulls the same juke off like 3 times. He goes one way and goes the other, picks up 40 extra yards, and all of a sudden they're in the red zone. I mean, like that's just the type of playmaker that he is. He's insane.
Zay should be higher on a lot of people boards.
He should, and he's going to go a lot earlier than a lot of people realize right now. And I think that Shrine Bowl director Eric Galco's been saying that for a long time too. But I mean, Flowers is he's another level of a human being, man. And with what he can do, the athlete, the type of athlete that he is, he's special. He's probably my top wide receiver in this class, if I'm being honest.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay, big statement. I like it.
I believe it. I mean,
I wouldn't be shocked to see him go out first off the board for what he showed to put on the extra 20 pounds and still run a 4.42. How fast was he even before that? Like, that's even crazier. The fact that he could have been 4.3 coming in his natural weight. Instead, he put on weight and still ran a 4.42. That's nuts.
Mm-hmm.
So, and he honestly plays faster than 4.42, on tape. So I think that's you're like we talked about Charlie Jones. You watch him on tape, he's not a burner, even though he tested like one. But Zay plays like he's that fast. He plays faster than 4.42.
Kid can ball. I love it.
Yep.
A couple guys on the other side of the ball that kind of underwhelmed, in my opinion, at the combine was a couple safeties. Brandon Joseph, Christopher Smith. I was higher on them in my rankings, and I feel like they kind of dropped a little bit because it's just, I don't know. I feel like with Christopher Smith, what he showed out of Georgia, especially this past year, I expected a little more out of him. I get it. It's the Underwear Olympics. You can only say so much. We've seen people have bad combines and have great careers. We've seen it a lot. But it's a good telling point of just raw athleticism. And I was like, man, there's just no way Christopher Smith looked like that on film. That's not what I saw.
Yeah, so I'm glad you brought him up. So because I think Christopher Smith is one of my favorite safeties in this class. Mm-hmm. And so, when I went to the combine last year, it was my first year there, and had the opportunity to meet a lot of really good people. One of the people I got to meet was Trent Baalke, the general manager for the Jacksonville Jaguars. And I'm not the type of media guy that I walk up to people and I'm like, hey, who you guys picking number 1? Right? Like that's that's the most absurd thing when I see. And I'm not the media person either that walks up to the podium and goes, hey, did the Eagles talk to you yet? Like, guys, nobody cares. All right.
Yeah.
Like you are wasting so much valuable time that we have with these guys. We only get 15, 20 minutes with them at tops in the media room. Do not be wasting it with, did you meet with this so-and-so team? I hate that stuff. But anyways, so I like to talk to scouts. I like to talk to general managers, personnel people, and pick their brains about general scouting specifics. Like, you're looking at the group that I went into last year trying to figure out and get better at because, self-assessing what my grades looked like. My safeties were terrible. I was not on top of the safeties, and I had no idea how to really figure out what I was looking at. And so Balky was the one that I talked to try to, like, he really took the time to give me a lot of extra info. You know, he shot me an email afterwards and wrote out basically, here's my top 5 traits I'm looking for in a safety. And the number one thing that's there is instincts. And that makes a lot of sense when you think about it, because instincts is what a safety is all about. You know, a safety has to just feel the play naturally, right? The next thing is tackling. You got to be a great tackler. You got to be a defender in space. And then the third thing that was on that list, athleticism, speed. And why is athleticism and speed the last thing on there when you have, you know, a position that you're talking about potentially playing one high, being a single defender in the back end of a defense? Is because being that single defender back there, if you could run a 4.3 40 like Lewis Seen did last year, right?
Yeah.
But can you take that proper angle coming downhill and cut off that runner and make that tackle in space? Or are you going to overuse your athleticism and overrun the entire play? That's what a lot of guys typically do at that position. So speed is a great bonus, especially if you know how to use it. I think Troy Polamalu was one of those guys that knew how to use his speed. He was very fast. He tested very well.
That's why Ed Reed was unfair.
Exactly, right? And Ed Reed was another one. Ed Reed didn't test well, if you remember.
But he had speed, athleticism, and he was very intelligent, which made him faster than everybody on the field.
And that's the thing, is people don't realize that you can cut time off. You can play faster with instinct. You can play faster knowing where the play is going and having that feel for it. And so I don't worry about Smith at all with the testing. I understand that a lot of people were. I don't worry about that at all because I watched Smith on tape. His instincts are ridiculous. He's all over the place.
I agree.
He makes a lot of great plays. Who's the other safety that you mentioned?
Brandon Joseph out of Notre Dame.
Same type of deal, right? Again, very smart guy. Was at Northwestern before he was at Notre Dame, right?
Yeah.
Very smart guy, very instinctive, spends a lot of time in the tape room. I'm not too worried about him either, but I think he's more of a second round pick anyways. You know, a lot of safeties go toward the second round just because of the nature of the position. The safeties from a contract standpoint are like the running backs of the defense. You know, you feel like you can kind of go through a lot of them, even though there's a lot of things that go into it, but there's a lot of people, you move corners over to safety if they can't play fast enough, you put them to safety. You know, there's a large influx of talent that's going into that position every year. So, you know, I'm not worried about the performance of those guys at all. The numbers, all that I've seen the tape. The tape tells me that they got instincts and they can tackle. And those are the two top things you got to be able to do at that position.
So I got a safety to talk about then. What about Jamie Robinson from Florida State?
Jamie. It's Jamie Robinson, not Jamie.
Yeah, Jamie.
I said Jamie.
You said Jamie.
No, I did not say Jamie.
I swear, John, did it sound like Jamie? Say it.
With
Find it out,
two
guys.
M's. How is
Find
that
it out, guys.
Jamie?
Goddamn Air Force can't read.
It doesn't make sense to be Jamie with two M's.
Jamie's
Let's talk about Jamie Robinson.
Jamie's great. And the thing with Jamie is what he does is I think he's more of a box defender. Okay, so what you would typically classify as a rover, a star, basically. The Saban defense typically uses the star terminology, but it's the same exact thing as a rover. A nickel defender, essentially. That's that mix between being a safety and a corner, and would still have to play a little bit of linebacker. That's what he does. And I think Florida State did that a lot with him last year. They swapped him, and I think it was Emmanuel Gant a lot on the field. So when, you know, Jamie come off or he'd play deep coverage, Gant would be in there to kind of play that role underneath. But you play him underneath, you play him in the box, he's instinctive, he runs to the ball, tested well. I think that he's a great freaking dude. I talked to him a little bit at the Senior Bowl too, when I just caught him one day while he was, I think he was getting food downstairs in the Renaissance. And, you know, just chatted it up for a little bit for 10, 15 minutes about, you know, some of his process and all that stuff. And I don't have any worries about him at all. I think he's going to be a stud, man.
Yeah. So
people don't realize that nickel defender is becoming so important right now. There's not enough of them right now.
Right. That versatility to be able to play safety and nickel is a big thing. You see the 49ers of Jimmy Ward doing that for years. The Patriots have been running something like that for years. Even the Dolphins, like a lot of teams are doing that because a lot of teams are nickel a lot. So they're running that extra safety / nickel defender, then if the defense comes out in a different look, you have another safety, you have like a little extra flexibility. It's really hard because the offenses are playing game like they have so much flexibility in offense nowadays. You have to have that versatile safety. And the reason I brought him up is because he's not Derwin James, but Derwin James is one of my favorite safeties. But when I watched him recently, I finally got a little bit into it, and when I was watching him, he plays with that same kind of mentality that Derwin James plays with. There's guys that just ooze the confidence, and I don't know if you saw that too, but he just seems to ooze confidence when he plays. Like he plays, he was really fun to watch. I don't know
he's
why.
Instinctive.
Yeah,
that's what it is, right?
And he loves football, and I was like, man, this is like watching Derwin James, but in a different body. It's crazy to me.
Yeah, I agree. But the other thing too, to point at why that position's become so important, and it's because a lot of teams they've been playing in a lot of nickel for the last really 7-8 years now.
Mm-hmm.
Ever since Welker kind of opened up that slot position with the Patriots. So, dang, that was like 10, 12 years ago now. Yeah. Holy.
Okay, so
so we're talking about something that's been stuck. This has been going on a lot longer than that then.
Long time.
What happened was, you had all those guys looking for the next Wes Welker, right? We're going to run our little wide receiver that we don't want to put on the boundary and play him out of the slot.
Man, I wish the Dolphins would find a guy like Wes Welker. Oh, wait a minute.
They had him, right? But it's
sorry.
Like, no, it's all good.
Say
hi.
Right.
It's a good fact.
What's up, buddy? Good night. Good night. Close the door, Nugget. That's Luke. That's my middle child. He's our Dino.
We always got time for the kids.
That's right. You have to.
Another
one.
All right. Good night. Give me a kiss. Mwah, love you.
While we got a second, guys, make sure you like, subscribe, follow. And if you're not following John, make sure you follow. And if you want, you can follow Dave. It's okay.
Don't follow me. No, I'm horrible. Don't. Literally, as I was just saying that, and Brett was saying that, John just unfollowed me. Literally, when I saw him on his phone. Folks, yes, like and subscribe. Brett, thank you. I was going to do that, and I saw the time, but
we got time. Hey, I saw it. I usually suck at that. So
no, it was a good opportunity. It was a golden opportunity.
Another intermission. I gotta say, sorry for the interruption, but I gotta wish a happy birthday to Mr. Ralph, the network's dad. We love him. Thank you for the support, Ralph, and we always like you in the chats. We don't know if you're here. We haven't seen. I don't know if I've seen.
I haven't seen him. Yeah, Ralph, happy birthday.
Might be enjoying 3 fingers of scotch.
Whoa.
So
drink one for him.
I don't got a beer on me. All I got is a sparkling water.
You have to drink one for me too.
All right. Gotcha. Hang on.
What do you got? You got drill again this weekend?
No, I took it off for Lent till Easter.
Okay,
yeah.
Gotcha.
I didn't know that was an option.
Well, you pick something, and I figured that was the one thing I probably needed to get rid of for 40 days.
Brett the alcoholic.
A quick military story. When I was in the Air Force, we had you would get rescheduled every now and then. We would actually have to work our reserve weekends around the race weekend. So And then when Firefly came to Dover, we had to work our reserve weekends around that because we had so many people that would come from all over the place, hotels and stuff, places to stay. The base wasn't big enough to house everybody. So there wasn't enough hotels available to put people in. So we'll just have to move it to another week this month. And we were getting, guys, we're going to have to do a 2 week show. There's no hotels available.
I went to a couple of those race weeks. I love Dover race.
Oh, Dover Downs is awesome. It's a constant turn, man. But just want to share a little nugget since you brought up drill weekend. Which
I'll share a nugget with you and about my disdain for the Air Force. And it's because you guys get to drink overseas, okay? So we don't. We went into what was that? The base. It was Al. Oh shoot, I can't remember. The Air Force base in Kuwait.
We went to. Mine was in Kyrgyzstan, and they had one. And
you talking about IED?
No. It was Al. I can't think.
If it's in Kuwait, I thought that was IED, but
no, I know which one you're talking about because I went through it on.
I was only there for a few days. I can't remember what the name.
I was there for R&R. I had to travel through it. I can't remember what the name is.
See, that was our launch point to Afghanistan was to get on the plane there.
Ali Al Salim.
Oh yeah, Al Salim. That's it. Ali Al Salim. That was it. So we're there. They have this rec center downstairs, like you go. I say downstairs because you had to go down a big hill. It felt like you're going downstairs. You get down there, and there's this rec center, and there's all these alcoholic drinks in there. We're like, ooh, we walk up there, and they're like, wait, are you Army? Yeah, you're not allowed. It's Air Force. Air Force only.
Yep.
No, so you know who that's probably for? The damn pilots.
Well, that too, yeah.
Yeah,
it was an Air Force base. We had to sign. It was part of our general orders is that we couldn't drink overseas, but Air Force didn't have that in their general orders. So.
I got you. Yeah. So when I was in Germany, yeah, we had some fun.
Well, no, we could have go there.
I remember a buddy of mine told me he was over there in Saudi. Was it Saudi Arabia or Kuwait? I can't remember where it was, but he said they ended up having the job they were doing ended up having its perks. They ended up going with the prince and getting to ride jet skis and stuff in the bay. I was like, what?
Oh my goodness.
He's like, yeah. He's like, I'm thinking this is going to be a rough trip over there for a few weeks because it was like a lot of that's like this terrible trip. No one wanted to do it. Well, at the end of it, for the last 3 days, they weren't doing nothing. And the prince went to thank him and took him out and showed him the town and like fed him and let him ride jet skis. It's like, what a trip to be on. Everybody was like kicking themselves in the ass for not going. It was like, I think late 90s. I was like, man, what a trip to go on and say, oh, I didn't want to go. Then all of a sudden you see the pictures back. Hey, look what we did.
Right. Now, I know we've taken a ton of questions.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, we had the intermission. So I'm going to start back up with Anthony.
Yes, sir.
It looks like one of my favorite safeties out of Boise State. Vogel, when you look – I'm sorry, Vogel. Anthony's very blunt. So it's John Vogel. When you look at J.L. Skinner, is he more of a rover like Jamie Robinson, or is he a better coverage guy where he can play pre-safety? I am a J.L. Skinner guy. But even with his injury, I'd take him.
Yeah, same. And, I watched him at the Senior Bowl. And he was one of the guys that really popped at the Senior Bowl that I wasn't expecting to pop.
Skinner.
And it's because the first thing is the dude is so big. He's so tall. Yeah, and he's so well built. And even standing next to him at the combine this year, too. Like, it was just – he's huge. I'm 5'7", so it's like, wow. How's the weather up there?
So when Brett and I come to the combine next year, do we have to lift you up and get the good questions?
No, not yet. No, we good. We good.
We'll put you on our shoulder.
We'll just I wear my boots when I go down there. So
you got lifts like
ankle support.
Bryce Young with his
exact. No, that's exactly what it is. That's exactly what it is. It's ankle support. Makes me feel taller. I'm standing next to Stetson Bennett going, "This guy's not that big."
You're not even short though. You're fine. It's 5'7" nothing. But when you're like 4'11", bro, you're
no, it's a problem. Yeah, if I'm 4'11", you guys do have to pick me up. You're right.
I mean, if you're 5'7" as a professional athlete, it's a little different story. Unless it's baseball, it's a little different.
Darren Sproles is pissed right now.
I met him too. I met him this year. Finally.
Did you have to stare him eye to eye, or did you stare down?
I actually had to look down to him a little bit.
Yes.
Couldn't believe it. Could not believe, like, I didn't even know who he was at first. I was talking. He introduced himself as Darren, and I was looking down to him. Finally, he walked off over here. And the guy I'm talking to, he was the special teams coordinator for the 49ers.
Yeah.
And he goes, that's Darren Sproles. I'm like, that's Darren Sproles? Like, bro, I idolize.
All of a sudden, he turned to a fanboy, like, wait, come back.
Yeah, right, exactly. He comes back through. I shook his hand again. I said, Darren, I got a funny story for you. He goes, what's that? I said, when I was growing up, I thought I could be you.
You said you thought you could be him?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. I thought you meant like beat him. I'm like,
no, I thought I could be him.
In a foot race?
I thought I could be. I said, I thought I could be you.
No.
And he started laughing. I said,
Darren.
Yeah, white men can't run.
Damn it. He's so right.
He's a little drunk too. It's okay. It's okay. All good. Everybody was having a good time.
Hey, don't sleep on Riley Moss out of Iowa. That dude was
dude ran, boy.
Yeah.
He ran. But no, to get back to the Skinner question. Sorry, totally off tangent. That's easy to do. A bunch of military
rabbit hole.
Yeah, but it's fun.
No, it's great. It's awesome. but I think Skinner is more of a strong safety, honestly. So he's a guy that I kind of want to play in. I want to kind of keep him toward the box. But if I have to play him deep, I'm going to do it. But I'm going to do it too high. At the half field is the farthest I want him playing. I think that he has the capability to play a little bit of man coverage. We saw that at the Senior Bowl drills. He definitely looks like he's a guy that in a pinch, he's going to be able to do that. Now, with his size, you hope that you can continue to build on that because you'd be able to take away a tight end, one-on-one. That's huge. So I think that's his upside is he's a guy that could potentially take away tight ends, and he's going to go a lot earlier because people are going to jump all over that.
I have a comp for him. I mean, I know it's a big one, but Cam Chancellor. Good
he's
size.
Bigger, though. He's bigger than Cam was.
I get it. No, I get that, but Cam also, I mean, Cam was also, what, 6'3", 6'4"?
He was 6'3", 230, I think.
Yeah, Cam was a big guy, and that he reminds me of that.
220?
Yeah, I've got him. It's here. I'll tell
what was
you
his
exactly
official?
He has the whole combine list. Give it.
Yeah,
John's got everything.
I don't know what his official weigh-ins and measurements.
Official was 6'4" and a fourth and 211.
Wow, so he's taller and skinnier a little bit. Well, because Chancellor, I think he ended up being 230. I don't know who he was at his combine.
I think Chancellor was kind of like he was a popper too.
Yeah,
and Skinner can.
But
he
could drop in coverage on a pinch though. Cam could drop in a coverage.
Yeah,
So,
I can kind of see it, but I think that he was Cam was more of a linebacker than Skinner is, if that makes sense. Like there is some merit to that. It's just that Skinner, when you see Skinner, when you're next to him, his frame, he's very wiry.
Or is he more like T.J. McDonald was?
I really just I don't have a
T.J. McDonald was taller.
See, he was Jalen Skinner's got this close thing I got was Cam, but the Cam's got the weight. But the only thing is just that height. You really don't see safety have those 6'4".
No, you really don't.
I mean, the last guy I remember secondary that had some success. I remember Sean Smith out of Utah, played for the Dolphins and Raiders. He had some height and size, and they always talked about him being the safety or corner. And he was 6'4" as a corner. It's hard for a corner. I don't have a problem with a corner being tall.
Brandon Browner, good
safety being tall. But a corner being tall, it just really depends. But Skinner, from what I understand, can flip his hips a lot better than people expect for a guy at his height and length.
He's smooth. Like he had some reps when he covered some receivers at the Senior Bowl that he's one-on-one. He did not look bad.
Yeah, and that's all that's going to matter as long as he can move and he doesn't get because a lot of people, it's like when you said helmet scouting and then people say, oh, he's too tall, can't play that. Well, how do you know he can't? Are you saying it because you've seen it on tape or because you're going by his height? Because that's not really how you should look at it, because just because someone's too tall or too short doesn't mean that they can't do something at a position. They just fit outside the box of the prototypical height and size and all that stuff.
Yeah. That's it. So a couple interesting comps popped up too that, at the bottom there. I think they said Rashad Wilson and then
Rashad Jones.
Yeah.
Rashad Jones, yeah.
Dick Anderson,
Dick
we're going back.
Yeah.
There's a way back.
There's a lot of guys there that it's really hard to put a comp on them. I don't know if we've really seen a safety play with his skill set at this point. And not in at least my recent memory. So
all right, let's go ahead and switch it up. Let's go ahead and get into some risers up on the board. Get the elephant out of the room. Anthony Richardson, the biggest talk of the town on the combine, the freak athleticism, the long jump, the vertical, the speed. What do you think he is? What QB is he on your list? In what ranking? Who do you think takes it?
So I think he's my third quarterback on my list, actually. Is what he agreed, because I've got my quarterback rankings pretty much done and graded out. I think Tanner McKee's the only dude I have to get in him. He's not going to be that high.
So not going to crack the list.
He not the top guys now. Now that being said, Richardson grades out as a second to third round pick for me, but a lot of these guys are they grade out second, third, fourth. They go in the first. And that's just because of the need on the position, the potential they have. It's very difficult to get a decent guy in the mid rounds at this point, unless you go back to last year. Last year, there was absolutely no demand for the quarterback, so they just kept dropping. The thing with Richardson, I knew that he was going to come in and blow up the combine. I think everybody knew that coming in. I think that he was just the crazy athlete. He's going to post insane numbers. The numbers that he posted ended up looking a lot like Dante Culpepper.
That's a comp.
Very similar, just taller and not as heavy, so he ran faster. I think his vertical was a lot better, obviously, but very similar athletic testing numbers to Culpepper. So the thing with Richardson is he's got the two elite traits that just match the best out of any two elite traits you could potentially have as a quarterback. He's an insane athlete, and he has an insane arm. So when you've got a guy that could throw the ball 70 yards pretty effortlessly, but he can also outrun your entire secondary, as we've seen him do a few times in college, that puts a little bit of pressure on a defense, just straight up. Just because as a safety, I might have to play 20 yards off the line of scrimmage, even drop 25. And you move him out of the pocket, and now all of a sudden he's out there and he's got a decision he's got to make. Do I come up or do I play back? Because either way, I'm getting torched. It's just how aggressive do I want to be? So I think with him, he's not a guy that you're going to be able to play right away, because everything else in between the arm strength and the great athleticism is really jumbled right now.
Yeah.
But you get him into a system that you can develop him for a year, and you could just kind of let him learn and really work on getting his footwork, coined out, I guess you could say, because that's the real issue to his game is his feet. Everything that you have as a quarterback is built from the platforms, built from the foundation up. So a lot of guys I talk to, I tell them this too, where, hey, if your platform is off and your feet aren't good, it's going to hurt your release. There's a guy coming out of Gannon this year, Corey Curtis. He was a Harlan Hill finalist and put up some gaudy numbers down there in Division II. And when he sent me his tape, he was asking for stuff back in November. And I pulled up his tape. The first thing I noticed is this really long step that he took going into his platform. It was so long. It was such a large step that he took before he threw that you'd watch his elbow kind of flail and then go into the throw. So his elbow, his subconscious was buying himself time to get into the step so that he could get the throw off. And so I said, man, you got to get that worked on. You got to get that platform built in. You do not need to be taking the step that you are. And I said, you're going to see your release is going to be cleaner. It's going to be faster. You're going to feel better, smoother, this and that. He goes, well, I guess I need to listen to you. I said, well, I would hope so. He goes, well, my dad was talking to Jimmy Johnson yesterday. He just said the same thing. I said, well, you listen to Jimmy, not me, okay? You listen to Jimmy. You're not listening to me. But no, so that's the thing is with Anthony is his feet are a mess right now. They're a jumbled mess. He's not consistent with his platform at all. And if you can get him and start building that muscle memory and not have to put him into a game type situation, that's going to be really good. Now, I'm going to tell you somebody who really likes him right now. And they're picking at 5.
That's what I was just going to mention.
Yeah. And it's because look at the way that they structured Gino's contract, right? They gave him a contract extension. They're giving him $50-some million this year.
We said that in our mock draft. The mock draft we did, we all said that Anthony Richardson makes too much sense for Seattle. It just makes a ton of sense.
And you can just sit him for a year behind Gino. Yeah. You're paying Gino $50 million this year, so Gino's playing. Yeah. But the next couple of years, Gino's built on a lot of incentives.
Yeah. So and then if Richardson takes 2 years, you got Gino for 2 years. And if Richardson takes a job, you have Gino to back him up for a year if Gino's willing to stay. So it's a good situation.
The problem is 5. Can you get him at 5? That's the other question.
A lot of mocks I've seen have teams trading up, going to grab.
There's going to be one. The first pick overall is for grabs. Number 2's taking a quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
And number 3 is up, and 3 is up for grabs.
See, I think Stroud and Levis will be 2 to go for. I don't think Bryce Young is going to be somebody that teams are going to be trading up for. I don't know. I could be wrong. I just don't see it. But I think the top 3 probably. I think the top 3 probably Levis, Stroud, and Richardson.
I think the Colts are going to move up to 1.
Yes,
they're going to take Stroud.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect fit.
I think that the Colts are going to sign Garoppolo. And they're going to sign, and then they're going to draft Levis.
The Colts?
The Texans. Sorry,
Texans. Okay.
At 2.
My biggest wild card is Las Vegas. That's my biggest one because they said they want Jimmy, but then they said they also want their young guy, and we know Mark Davis gives the approval to move up and go and get their guy. And Josh McDaniels. I mean, Jarrett Stidham is not the future. I don't see him being the stopgap veteran QB.
Stidham's a free agent anyways. The only guy they have under contract is Chase Carter.
Even so, I still, even if they have to re-sign Stidham, and I just don't see it. Yeah. I see Jimmy going – that's just me. I see Jimmy going to Las Vegas with him knowing McDaniel's system in New England. I feel like he knows his system way too well there. Now, this Houston talk I've seen to Jimmy, is that real?
Oh, yes. It's very real.
Wow.
But
Okay.
think about it. Who's D'Amico's offensive coordinator?
I didn't even make that connection. Wow. And Dave exits left.
But Jimmy, but at the same time, I mean, Jimmy has a lot of connection around the league. So Jimmy G,
he does. He does.
You got Green Bay, you have Miami, you have
Green Bay,
the Raiders.
Green Bay's not signing anybody.
No, I'm just saying, like all these coaches that have worked with him. So he's all over the place. So you can go anywhere with Jimmy G. Jimmy G, I think, will get a lot of consideration for a lot of teams. And I don't think signing Jimmy G stops any team from drafting a quarterback necessarily, because he's not the long-term guy.
I think that Jimmy knows where he's at this point of his career. Mm-hmm. Houston makes the most sense. It just makes they got money to throw. They're going to have money to throw, and they want a guy to build into their to bridge. Yeah. And he's a perfect fit for that. So I think that they're going to go Levis at 2.
This just came across my screen to back up your guys' two things. Daniel Jeremiah says there's 2 QBs prospects that have jumped up above Bryce Young as QB1 and QB2 that he sees after Combine 23. Didn't mean to interrupt. It literally just popped up. And it's Levis and Richardson. Those are the 2 QBs he sees being taken over Bryce Young and Stroud right now.
I think that Bryce is going to fall a little bit, which sucks because I think Bryce is by far the best quarterback in this class.
Agreed.
It's not even close. With what he is capable of doing, his improvisability. I mean,
his vision too, like the way he sees the field is ridiculous.
I don't know. I'm not sold on Young.
No, Ohio State guy not sold on that. No,
I'm not sold on Stroud either.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, Stroud, and like the whole quarterback debate is a whole nother issue, right? Like I could do a whole entire podcast.
You mean a wink, another show next week? Another show, wink.
Oh, is that what we're talking? Wink.
We're open. We have open availability.
Get up the. Let's talk to the producer.
But real quick, we'll talk about that. So Ohio State doesn't ask their quarterbacks to do certain things.
Yes.
And a lot of time their first read or 2 are open, and it's just the way it is. So these guys are doing what they're supposed to do. So it's hard to say because it's not, you can't knock a guy for not being asked to do something, but it's something you will have to teach him to do in the NFL. But Herbert wasn't asked to do certain things, but look how he's done in the NFL, being asked to do the things he wasn't, and how well he learned them, how well he got rid of it. It's if you have the traits and the ability and the drive, you can be fine. You can be a good NFL quarterback. And Dave, that's what I told you about Richardson. Remember, I said if he has the drive to be great, the sky's the limit for him because he has that kind of talent. He has to want it like Josh Allen wanted it. Josh Allen wanted to get better. He wanted to clean it up his mechanics, and he did. And he worked his ass off with Palmer in the offseason. So that's something I think that Stroud will have to do, Levis will have to do. None of these guys are guys that I'm like, you know what, I'm banking my franchise on. These are the guys that are going to be my guy, right? You know, I think all these guys really need to be developed, and I think a lot of them should sit honestly right away.
Young's the only one I think that's ready to play right now. Only one that I would be okay with playing right now.
Ding, ding, ding.
Everybody else would definitely want to sit for a year. But
Army guys,
that being said, CJ Stroud to the Colts makes the most sense to me out of any of them. And I'm going to tell you exactly why. Because look at what Shane Steichen did with Jalen Hurts this year, the last 2 years. He's built Jalen into what they call a manufactured quarterback, which is the way that you design your play is that you have beaters. It's a lot like Ohio State runs their system. Ohio State primarily runs half field reads and progressions, right? So you're reading man or zone, you go into the man beater, you go into the zone beater. There's some of that that's obviously used in the NFL, but it's not something that you run 90% of the time in the NFL. It's something you'll run more like 20 to 30.
Right. Yeah.
And the reason for that is because disguised coverages, they mess up your pre-snap read. Now you're messed up on your progression, all the different stuff. You don't see a lot of disguises in college. So the thing that the kind of like with CJ that makes sense is the way that Steichen designed that offense the last couple of years in Philadelphia was that you had beaters for deep coverage. You had a man beater, You had a 2 high beater, you had a 3 high beater, and then you had your check down. You had that on every single play. And you might have a couple different beaters for the same type of coverage if you're anticipating that type of coverage. So all Jalen had to do as a quarterback is read the deep coverage, how many players are playing deep, and then go straight to the beater. And if there was no beater that was open, you go straight to your check down or you get out of the pocket and you run. It was that simple.
He simplified it for him without simplifying the offense.
Exactly.
There's a way to do that. And that's what you have to do for your young quarterbacks.
Vince Lombardi always talked about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Simplifying the game, making it easier on guys instead of – so you eliminate the entire idea of a progression read system where you're 1, 2, check down, 1, 2, 3, check down. That's eliminated entirely because you're just reading coverage and throwing the beater for it.
Mm-hmm.
And when you got guys like Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown that are going to get open consistently, you got Dallas Goedert, you got all those running backs that can catch out of the backfield.
Takes the pressure off them.
Well, that's it. And then Jalen's ability to run. Yeah. That was the other thing. Jalen's running ability. Now you've got one-on-ones across the board all game because you have to account for the run game. So CJ kind of fits that really, really well. The only other guy that could potentially fit that is Anthony Richardson. And I think that you need to sit down with him and you need to really figure out if you think that he's ready to get into something like that right away because the Colts don't have a backup plan unless they're going to roll out Sam Ehlinger again, which I can't see that happening.
I will throw one more name out there for that. And I think Will Levis could potentially fit into that because of his athletic ability.
Steichen does
that. I could see if the Colts are in a situation that Levis is there and Stroud's gone, that they would go Levis because I feel like they could build the offense similar to how they did with Hurts.
No, I don't think the Colts are going to be picking at 4.
But no,
I don't think there's any chance.
But
I think they're a 1.
Bryce Young also makes sense. I feel like the Colts, honestly, I feel like they're one of the teams that the offense, honestly, they could taper their offense to which quarterback they have available or want. But the one team I think that would actually fit Stroud perfect that I would love to see Stroud go to, or actually any of them, is the Panthers because of Frank Reich.
Yeah, and Josh McCown. Josh McCown's the quarterback's coach there now too.
Yes. I mean, you're an Eagles fan, so you know how important Frank Reich was to the Eagles in a Super Bowl run. And I think he got the short end of the stick in Indianapolis. And I personally, because I love like watching guys develop, I want to see the Panthers get one of these quarterbacks and develop them. I would love to see them get Richardson and just prove everybody wrong and Richardson like light it up. That would be cool as hell to see. But I don't think he fits.
I don't think they're going to go with Richardson.
No.
Well, that's what I'm saying. What if Bryce Young falls to 7 and goes right to 7 and Carolina?
See, I think Bryce Young could fall, and that could be an option for him. I don't know. What do you think?
Going to 5 at Seattle.
No, I think
boom, that's taken care.
That's what it's kind of sounding like. And because the thing is, everybody's kind of starting to figure out the Seahawks really like Richardson, which means that you have to get into the top 5 to get him. Okay,
that's it. They have another
Arizona's
first. They can trade up and secure that if they want to, and they are a damn good drafting team.
And to me, I don't think Seattle's going to move up. Personally,
no,
they've called,
but
I don't think they want to do that.
Because here's the other thing too. If they have to, it's like
here's the other thing. You got the ammo to move back in the first round to get a 3rd first-round pick if you really want. So if you got like Hendon. Hendon would fit that really well.
People are sleeping on Hendon Hooker way too much.
If he never got hurt and continued his projection, I think so. But again, injuries play a role with that. I mean,
and he's on track to be ready to play full contact by the start of training camp.
I'm a fan of Hendon Hooker. I think,
I
know the offenses he was in were like, okay, it's kind of quarterback friendly. It's, again, we're doing the half field read stuff. And like, I love his answer when they said, you know, you only threw it through the first receiver. You only had the one read. He goes, it's not my fault. My first read was wide open. That answer was like, I understand my reads, but my first read's open. I'm not going to go, let's go to read 2. I like that answer because that means he knows I'm throwing to the open guy. I'm not second guessing it. That I love because that second guessing is what gets quarterbacks hurt, gets those interceptions. And Hooker, I love his confidence. And if you go back, John, I don't know how much work you've done on him yet. But if you
I watched every game. I'm a Vol fan.
Okay, all right. So
yeah, I watched every single game.
So you seen him
you
at
didn't
Virginia
see all
Tech.
His tweets over the Alabama game.
You see, him at Virginia Tech. You know, like they won. They had success. The offense was different. They came alive. in Tennessee, all of a sudden, offense comes alive. And the way he stepped up against Alabama, I'm like, dude, Hooker is could be like a legit quarterback. I worry about his health to stay healthy in the NFL because once you start developing an injury history, but where do you think he goes in this draft?
Well, that's what I'm saying is there are a couple of teams that could move back into the first round where it would make sense. And Seattle's one of them because they got 2 second-round picks, right? One of them is relatively high.
Yeah.
So you target the Eagles at 30, for example. The Eagles they don't have a lot of picks in this draft. They're willing to probably move down right there.
Yeah.
It would make sense to go ahead and grab Hooker right there because you're not going to play Hooker this year. So you let him recover. You let him adjust the offense.
Back to your Geno Smith point.
Right. Back to the Geno point. And then year 2, now you get to make a decision. Is he going to play? Do we want him to play? Do we not? I think that he's a guy. Like, the thing is, I understand that they really like Anthony Richardson, but since when, and I mean, take Russell Wilson out of the equation. When you look at all the other quarterbacks that have played with Pete Carroll over the years, but going back to USC, what were they all? What type of quarterback were they?
Most of them have been athletes, haven't they?
They're more game manager athletes, yeah.
Well, yeah. So
Matt Leonard.
I said the only one not was Matt Leinart, but I mean, yeah.
Carson Palmer.
Palmer.
Yeah, you go through his USC history a little bit there, and you
kind of more of his because more of his pro quarterbacks have been more athletes, but no, his college quarterbacks were all like Nick Saban's quarterbacks.
Well, he likes a game manager.
Yeah.
And that was one of the things that they would always bump heads, Russell and Pete back in Seattle. Was bumping heads because Russell liked to take chances and throw the ball down the field. And Pete's not really of that mind where it's like, hey, run the play. Run the fucking play. Right? So that was a lot of the issues that they had over the years because we heard about them potentially trading him for several years before it happened. And that was part of the reason why. So Hendon, to me, fits what they want better than a guy like Anthony Richardson. He just fits what Pete Carroll wants. So I think that the best thing to happen to Seattle is someone takes Richardson before he gets to 5, and then they're forced to make another decision. They probably trade down, and then trade back up into the first round. Collect their 3 first-round picks. You get Hendon, who's 25, right? But you get a 5th-year option on him now. So you're set at quarterback for the next 5 years, in theory.
Right.
To me, that makes all the sense in the world. You just signed a 32-year-old quarterback to a 3-year extension for $103 million. You're not worried about quarterback age. Pete's not worried about his quarterback's age either because how much longer is Pete going to be coaching?
That's
3,
true.
4, maybe 5 years
That's
at tops.
True.
Yeah, so he's not worried about it either. He's like, yeah, I love that kid. Let's get him.
And, I mean, look, these guys are lasting longer and longer. The research is there for how to take care of your body. Mm-hmm. Tom Brady's like his whole thing with TB12 is all about taking care of your body. Aaron Rodgers is still in the league. Drew Brees lasts a long time. Peyton Manning. These guys are learning. Hey, if I take care of my body, I'm good. And Hendon Hooker, what I've always noticed about him is he's not a run first guy at all. He can run. He can make plays off platform, which is very important because the plays break down. And he has the athletic ability to use when he needs to. But he's not like the Josh Allen, who I put in that same category, and like Cam Newton, guys that kind of run a lot. And I'm not saying Cam wasn't a pocket passer because he absolutely was, but his body broke down, which is a shame because Cam was, when he was on top of his game, he was elite. And then his body started breaking down from all the runs plus being hit in the pocket. So I like guys that can run, but I prefer them to pick their shots when they run. And I think Hooker's that kind of guy that he'll run, but it's going to be more like Patrick Mahomes. When I need to, I'll run, but I'm a passer first.
The other thing that I do kind of wonder about Seattle is, are they putting this info out about Richardson? Do they want this info out? Because
smoke screen.
Well, you get people to trade up. You get 3 quarterbacks in the top 5. Guess who falls to 5?
Yeah.
Will Anderson Jr. or Jalen Carter, whichever one you want.
No. Yep. And that's a blue chip defensive player either way.
And they could use either one. Just like Chicago. They don't care which one Chicago takes.
When it comes to defense, they draft very, very well.
Yeah,
it works.
But look at their defensive line right now. Is there an elite talent on that defensive line right now?
You telling me Puna 4 doesn't scream elite to you?
No, but they have a lot of I don't want to say role players. They have a lot of pieces. Like, I guess it's like solid
because
pieces.
they run a rotation, right?
Yeah,
they're going to run a rotation through it. That's what they want to do.
Oh, he never has enough defensive ends because they get tired, and he wants to be able to rush the passer all 4 quarters.
Yep,
from all 5 or 6 positions, which counts the outside linebackers because he blitzes them a lot. Then he has that elephant role still.
A guy like Jalen Carter fits that perfectly.
Exactly.
And I'm pretty sure that if the Bears trade to 4, like I really think I'm waiting for that announcement to come down the road. I think that's imminent. I think that's any day now. The Colts are gonna move up to 1. Bears are gonna come down to 4. It's the only one that makes sense if you're the Bears. No point moving to 2. No point. The capital that you're going to get from that is not enough. Move to 4. So Arizona is going to move their 3rd pick too. So if someone's going to trade up for a quarterback, you're going to get your defensive guy. And even if Arizona doesn't, Arizona takes one of the defensive guys, you still got a blue chip guy. Mm-hmm. So 4 just makes the most sense to me. I don't think that Chicago goes any farther than that. I don't think they want to go any sooner. Mm-hmm. You can charge a king's ransom to move from 4 to 1. You can do it. They're going to do it. I can't. That's not an insider thing. That's just this makes so much sense. It's imminent. It's gonna happen. So if I'm sitting at 4, I'm getting one of those 2 players. If I'm Seattle at 5, I need them to move up. I need another quarterback to come off the board at 3, so I get my guy. And Jalen Carter. I know that people were all worried about what happened with the arrest, all that stuff. Look, a lot of the speculation that's out about him right now, as the concern is that he likes to drive fast. He had a speeding ticket the month before this incident happened, where he was doing 87.
A young kid with access to money likes to drive fast.
Right.
Shocker.
Exactly. Right.
I'm not saying at 35 years old that I like muscle cars and driving faster.
Just had a motorcycle too, right?
No, it's gone.
Oh, it's gone now. Okay, but no, you see, that's something that I think a lot of teams are going to be. They're going to be diligent about, and they're going to be They're going to be on top of it, right? But this whole thing about he's a murderer, how dare he leave his friends, blah 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 blah. No. I mean,
love having you.
First of all, I think that he probably was driving, right? The way it sounds like to me is they were racing. Mm-hmm. And he may or may not have seen them go off the road. And even if they did go off the road, your first thought is not, oh, shit, they might be dead. Your first thought is, oh, dang, I got to get out of here.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff.
He's a young kid. The first instinct was, crap, I don't want to get in trouble. Like,
oh, it was that too, but it was also like, he may have been laughing when he drove off, because it's like, oh, shit, they crashed. Yeah. You're not thinking about death. You're not thinking about that kind of thing. You're like, oh, they're going to pull right back up and we're going to fix the car. That's what you're thinking. And I think that all of us in that situation, we drive away too. Yeah. The other thing we want to find out is, was he actually driving the car? Because his story's changed a few times. Yeah. And that sounds almost like he could be protecting somebody. So obviously there's all that stuff there that we don't know until they get through their court and all that stuff, which it's circuit court. So
it's a misdemeanor.
You can't hold anything against the kid.
We're not talking Henry Ruggs killed somebody doing hundreds of miles an hour. Yeah, right. Yeah. Like, this is when I hate when they did this. This is on what's grinding Brett's gears, because I hate when guys in the media are slandering these dudes like they weren't a young kid. Like, I bet you I could dig up and find a bunch of stupid stuff that these guys did. We all did stupid stuff. We're kids,
from a podunk town and
like racing and shit. Like, that's just, I'm not saying it's okay to do. Like, he learned his lesson. I guarantee you this kid's not gonna be out there street racing and doing this shit again. He sees what's happening right now. It's probably scared the hell out of him. Like, I'm not doing that again. And I'm gonna advocate against it. Like, be smart about it. And hell, if he's into racing and shit, like, go to a racetrack. Every state you go to has a track or a drag strip, whatever, nearby, and it's fun to do. So, like, if you're gonna knock a kid for that, I'll take him all day long. I'll do my due diligence. I'll look at it. But look at Laramie Tunsil with the gas mask. Like, that, okay,
One of the most absurd draft drops ever.
Yeah, like I'm not gonna stick my head in the sand.
Why
and
is
say,
it released on the day of draft or on the combine? Like, it's just stupid.
Right. And I'm like, like who cares? He smoked pot in college. Oh my God, no. Like there's so many other things.
98% of America is smoked pot.
But did we hear about Tyreek Hill before the draft? We didn't hear much about that. Joe Mixon situation. Right. So like we didn't hear much about Joe Mixon. He dropped to what, 3rd round, I think. You heard about it, but they didn't make it a big deal. So like I'll take a guy that got caught smoking weed out of a gas mask. I'll take a guy who was racing over a guy that like beat his girlfriend or had domestic violence charges, and look, Joe Mixon's in trouble again. Like I'm not, me personally, I wouldn't take the chance on the guys that domestic violence. I don't want nothing to do with it. The guy who was street racing being like a typical teenager thing, I can live with that because I think I can grow. He's going to grow up and mature. Once I show him what's in front of him and teach him and guide him, that's easy. We're not talking like a head case. We're talking a kid who just made a mistake. And that's what people have to separate that. And it drives me nuts that they can't do that. You can't separate a mistake from a kid who's a troubled kid has issues going on.
I say this stuff all the time too, man, where I'm just like, look, I understand that I'm officially a part of the sports media, but I do not claim to be a part of the sports media. I am not. I'm different in the way that I approach it, the way that I want to cover the sport, the way I want to talk about it. And, Pat Kerwin, Jim Miller, shout out to them. They're really cool dudes.
Love those guys.
Yeah.
They say it best, and that's because I was telling them, I said, when I listen to your show, I am so much better informed on what's going on in the league, your thought process, the way that you guys break it down so that I understand it. The game sells itself. That's what Pat says. The game sells itself. We don't need all this extra BS. We don't need it. We don't. Because the game sells itself. People want to know about the game. That's what we do. So we just talk about the game. And if we got to spend 5 days talking about why the Chicago Bears are bad, then we're going to spend 5 days talking about why the Chicago Bears are bad.
I could spend decades talking about what the Bears are bad. I can do it all day long.
You know why, Dave? Because they have decades of being bad.
I was born in 87. They won their last title 2 years before I was born.
Yeah, that's true.
7 years ago.
I don't remember their Super Bowl either. I wasn't alive.
You don't remember the Dolphins either? What?
Oh, sorry. Actually, the last Super Bowl the Dolphins were in was before I was born. So,
Well, hey, time out. He's here, Mr. Rafael Verdesa. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, sir.
Happy birthday, Ralph. I wish you guys had told me about this.
Oh, that's all right. Sorry. Bobby sprung it on us.
He finally showed up. Right towards the end of the show, he showed up.
Yeah, he wasn't even on the show. What the heck, man? But yeah, Ralph, happy birthday from the Fins Talk family. Like I told Bobby, you're now the Fins Talk dad. So that's the title for you now.
You get a ton of texts and emails. It's Bobby's fault.
Insert Vin Diesel gift of family.
Speed racing.
Speaking of speed racing, we're all family here. We do it for
family. I should have seen that one coming. Oh, shit.
John's like, I'm never coming back again.
Bobby, make that a clip. Make that a clip.
Knock my mic over his
laugh. I got one more guy I want to talk about because he's been mentioned across many networks, but he wasn't mentioned to begin with. He was more of that mid-round prospect. Jack Campbell has made himself a lot of money after that combine, man. Oh, it was fun to watch on tape, but seeing him out there, it's just I feel like no other linebacker was able to move like he was around the agility cones and everything.
So I was at the Music City Bowl where Iowa played Kentucky.
Yeah.
I got a chance to talk to, Will there a little bit to try to get a feel for who he was as a person. There were, I think, 5 scouts that were there for that game because, that was the national championship day. So everybody's off at different places. It's the day before the new year. They were all pissed off that they were even there because they wanted to be home,
right.
That kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I had a really nice conversation with Tom McConaughey from the Jaguars about Campbell specifically because we were talking about him and the lack of athleticism on tape and, just this big hulking downhill guy. Like, he's not very athletic on tape. I know that yours. What?
What? I don't know. From what I saw, he was able to make tipped interception catches. Guy's 6'5", 250. You really don't see that much.
Yeah, no, you don't. But when you compare him to other linebackers that are in the league right now, he doesn't move like they do. He went through the agility drills. Like, he looked really good at the combine. Yeah. But he was even talking about him then. He was like, yeah, but he's instinctive as all get out. He's one of those guys where if we're playing football 15, 20 years ago, the way that we were playing it then, he's a first-round pick. Like he's a downhill run stuffing, I'm going to put it in your mouth kind of thing. Like that's the type of guy that he is. He doesn't care. That it's not a type of player that fits very well in the modern NFL because you want him to be able to drop into coverage. You want him to be able to do that type of stuff. You don't see that ability a lot on tape with him, but I think that the upside is there, and that's what kind of became apparent with the combine. Is okay, he can move. He's a natural athlete. There's nothing crazy about it. But they were talking even then about him being the second, third round pick. So it was a guy that I had well outside of that. I thought he was more like a day 3 type pick, but the NFL kind of had him already kind of moving up in that general direction anyway. Yeah. So that's where I think the rest there's a big thing that kind of happens during the combine, and it's when the media starts to catch up to what the NFL's thinking. Mm-hmm. And it's a little bit of vice versa too, because the combine is like everybody's all in Indianapolis. Everybody. Like that's why I make that a priority. I don't care what events I do during the year. I got to be at the combine because literally everybody's there. Now, am I going to build better relationships and better friendships at these other events? Yes, because their workload's not like it is at the combine. They're not running around. Their schedules aren't as tight. They have more time to sit there and just chat. Even when you go to the Senior Bowl now,
it's chill experience. It's a lot more laid back. You see people kind of like a little bit more relaxed there than you would at the combine.
Not even at the Senior Bowl anymore. The Senior Bowl is almost like the combine now, where they're so tight with their schedules because they have to interview all 32 teams, interview all players there at the Senior Bowl now. So,
are you talking about the teams with their schedule?
Yeah, teams. Teams are crazy. Places, honestly, the better games to go to right now, surprisingly, if you want to like talk to people in the league, NFLPA Bowl, Hula Bowl, Tropical Bowl, those types of games. And then go hit the bowl games too. Like these mid-tier, lower-tier bowl games because there's going to be scouts there watching. That's the best place to really talk to these guys because their workload is really light compared to these other events like the Senior Bowl, the Combine, all that, etc. But your face is there. You're still meeting people. Everybody in the league is there at Indianapolis. It's the one time of the year where everybody's in one place. So I that's a priority every year to make sure that I go hit that and I go do that. But that's where a lot of the info starts to come out, what they're thinking, especially after Thursday. You get to Thursday, like people start to loosen up. They're not as uptight anymore. They're like, okay, we've been here. We've been working real hard. We're ready to, party and have a good time. So that's when people become loose-lipped and they start talking about stuff. And that's when you start seeing player rankings adjust on the draft websites, players going up, players going down, because now they're talking. So we start to catch up as a media conglomerate at the combine time. And that's where we start to see where people are really thinking about players. Outside of that, it's the media kind of putting their own ideas on guys. I like this guy, I like that guy. And then you see these combine risers and these combine fallers, and it's all media-based. The NFL doesn't really adjust too much. But no, in terms of media, Jack did himself some favors. But I think he's probably a second, third round guy anyways, just based on the conversations that I had leading up to the combine.
You mean at 40, what was it, or 51, 52? Right, Brett? Jack Campbell?
Yes, I would love that too. I seriously, I'd be all about it. I think he is. I think he's a guy that can show up day one. You can plug him in as a starter, and I think he'll make your defense a little bit better. But I think there's certain defenses where I don't want to see him in, that I don't want him in. So, but I think more of a if you're going to be a covers defense, I'd rather see him in more of a zone style defense, a zone heavy. But if you're lining your linebackers up man to man and blitzing heavy, that's not really what I think he does well. So he definitely improves your run defense off the bat. But I would love to have him in Miami. I think he immediately upgrades that defense. I think his intelligence and his instincts, I think he really helps out a lot. But I think he's going to be a good linebacker because of his instincts, because he has the ability, honestly, to just be around the football. That's one thing that stood out when I did watch him, is just he was always around the football. And to me, that's a good sign. But I've been wrong before because I thought Shane Scove was going to be a good linebacker at Stanford, and I was way off on him.
So,
of course, I had no idea what I was watching back then, but
that was the biggest thing that I found out when I started, right? Which was 2016, 2017 was around there. I was like, oh, Mel Kiper and Todd McShay are always wrong. I need to go start watching these people myself. And I started watching them going, I don't know what the fuck I'm looking at. I have no idea.
Like quarterbacks,
it's a rabbit hole.
Right, yeah. And then once you start learning, that's the thing. Like you ask Trent Baalke and different people. That's how you learn it. I wish more people would do that. I learned from some guys that coached in college, some guys that talked to a player that played offensive line in the NFL, and I picked his brain about the system the Shanahan's run because he played for the Texans on the offensive line. So it was cool picking his brain. And I've talked to people and just picked their brains just because I don't know everything. There's no way you know all positions 100%. So you just learn and you just kind of figure it out. And the scouts are extremely knowledgeable. And teams that like struggle drafting, a lot of times it's not the scouts, it's the people making the decisions. Politics get involved. They start butting heads in the office, and that's where things start getting involved, and it just doesn't work out.
Exactly.
And teams overthink things.
That's what I really try to do with these guys is I really just try to build that kind of a relationship where it's like, hey, I just want to learn from you. You get the satisfaction of teaching a stupid motherfucker like me all about what this happened kind of thing. But guys, a lot of scouts, they just love ball, man. They just love the game. And one of the guys that I really got to know really well was Mark Gorsak with the Steelers. And he'll walk into a facility and he'll mess with people and walk up to them. If it's a young person that's relatively new or whatever, go, do you know who I am? I'm the face of the 40. Because he's at the 40-yard dash every year at the combine, right?
Oh, yeah.
So Mark is one of those guys where he will you just hang around him for a little bit. He just shares info. He just starts talking. And you got to be a sponge when you're with him because he goes back to Weber State where he worked with, Bobby Petrino and Mike Zimmer on that staff. And they were just crazy about football. And he said, that's the kind of thing where a lot of the scouts are like that in the sense of they just love the game. And once they start trying to figure out, oh, okay, this guy, he knows a little bit, but he's trying to learn more. They're just down to talk ball, man, and really get into some deep stuff. So that's definitely one of the things people don't realize about those guys.
So I got one more prospect. You got time for one more?
Let's go. One more.
All right. You know what? I know people were talking about Darnell Washington. We know what he is. We loved him. Same thing he did on field. Big lumbering tight end. Ran people over, jumped over people, blocked people 5,000 yards back. We knew what was going to happen with him. But Zach Kuntz has a 10.00 RAS score out of ODU, Old Dominion. Do you think he's the real deal?
So I actually had him back in August. I dropped when I started with NFL Draft Blitz, my all underrated team. And so these were guys that I thought were underrated going into the draft cycle. And they were from a bunch of different schools. I think Hank Bachmeier was my quarterback. He ended up transferring out of Boise, obviously. And I think he landed, so I can't remember where he went. I haven't played catch up with all of that yet. But Kuntz, he was my tight end. He was my underrated tight end, and it was because he's actually a transfer from Penn State. I don't think a lot of people know that. And he'd basically kind of gotten trapped in a deep depth chart there and transferred to ODU to try to get some playing time. And it was immediate. I mean, you turn on the tape. He's got the size. He was a really great athlete. There was no doubt about all that. He's a great receiver. He can block. He's a real deal. But he's not going to go as high as a lot of these guys because I think the school plays a little bit into that, the competition level. And this is just a really deep tight end class overall. I mean, the top 5 guys, we're not even talking about Kuntz as a top 5 guy, and all those other guys up there are very well deserving of it between Mayer, Kincaid, Washington, as you mentioned. They're all, even Payne Durham can go up there. Josh Wiley. That group that was at the Senior Bowl this year was amazing. And so it's kind of one of those where, I think he is the real deal. I think he's going to show it, but he's going to be a steal for somebody in like the 5th or the 6th round. And he's awesome. I like him a lot.
Now, I've seen some people kind of fall on Latu from Alabama. How do you feel about him?
You got to understand what Latu is, right? Like, he's not going to be that stretch in the field, dominant downfield threat. That's not his role. He's really an underneath guy. I think Mayer is a lot more of an underneath guy than a stretch the field, but he's going to catch everything through contact, and that's what Mayer did. He was a magnet for the ball. Latu is kind of more of an underneath guy. And so I think that we're just kind of getting a better feel for where he is. He's a 4th, 5th, maybe 6th round guy too. So,
okay, yeah, I just wanted to dive into those later prospects.
So tight ends, one of them that I think, Lance Zierlein seems to be high on him, but Luke Musgrave. I don't really see him talked about.
Love Musgrave.
Like he has a lot
of potential. Musgrave. Oh my god! And the reason was he got hurt this year, so he didn't get to play a lot.
Yeah. I feel like no one's talking about him. Like when I see tight ends mentioned, I don't see Musgrave mentioned there.
He's going a lot higher. A lot higher. He might slip in the 1st, honestly.
I can see it.
He's a guy that a lot of media people haven't caught on to either. No, he's awesome.
He's just got that. He's 6'6", 253. And that's it. He's perfect size. He looks like your legit weapon of a tight end. And I saw him, and I'm like, no one's really talking about him. And when I watched him, I immediately saw an NFL tight end watching him. And I know like Tucker Kraft's like the one that's like the small school guy that people like.
South Dakota State. Yep. So everybody likes him, which honestly he deservedly so. He's good. Dallas Goedert kind of put that school on the map there. But I think Kuntz, I did see I think you retweeted that recently that he was one of your sleeper guys from August, and I saw after the combine, I saw his name everywhere. Everybody's talking about him all of a sudden. So I like that like you said, the media is now catching up, but the NFL already knew about this kid long before that. Yeah, a long time ago. Like they've been on top. Yeah. And there's secrets that are kept, obviously, that are sometimes kept really well, but like people don't realize about the whole entire draft process. It's a process of elimination. I always tell guys this when I'm talking to them. And it's because they're like, oh, well, is the NFL going to find me? No, bro. They already found you. They know who you are. It's just their whole philosophy is if he can't fit this, blah, 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 eliminate him. So I don't have to look at him anymore.
Yeah.
And so it's a negative process.
School, whether they have a prospect or not, they show up at a school. Yeah. And they're within their region they're supposed to cover. And if there's a college there, they're going to go there. If you have a prospect or not, because you don't know who's going to be there. I think there was a whole show on NFL Network with, was it Finding Giants or something like that, about the Giant scouting staff, and it kind of gave an insight of how long they're on the road and stuff. It was a good show to watch. Anybody who's interested in scouting, doing that kind of stuff, and kind of what they look at and stuff like that. And it was back when Billy Turner was at North Dakota State, so it was back in that draft. Was at 15, I think. So it was pretty cool. So I'd recommend anybody watch it, but.
It's not even just the NFL that does it too. It's like I talked to Greg Moore, who's a scout for the Senior Bowl, and he's doing it too, right? Where he's assigned to a game one week and he makes a weekend out of it. And he was at the Jackson State Grambling game, and he said, or Southern, sorry, not Grambling, Southern. So he's there, and he's like, well, this Miles College is right there, and so I went over there and I watched their game, because that's a walk from the Jackson State campus. I mean, he went through his breakdown of just all the schools he looked at just for the Senior Bowl, and it was every single school inside of his region he was in, so the Senior Bowl runs it a lot like an NFL scouting organization.
And I want to throw something out about that. Yeah, and I want to throw something out about that. And this is not a knock. Man, I cannot remember the guy that ran it before. It was an awesome guy, Phil Savage.
Yeah, Phil
Savage. Not a knock on him at all. But the way Nagy has taken it to the next level, the talent that is there at the Senior Bowl, the amount of talent that's drafted and had success in the NFL, like almost immediately, they're finding guys. They are doing a great job of digging and scouting, and then welcoming people like us, like Dave and I and everybody on this network can go down there. We're just a bunch of average Joes, but it's a fun time, and it's really good to see that talent make it there. And just everything growing from the media to the on the field experience. So there's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes, and it's there's a reason why I didn't want to pursue it once I knew what was involved.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Family guys, man, can't go on the road like that.
No, I can't do it, and especially unless you're paying me like 6 figures, maybe. But like, I can't do it, man. I can't be away 10 months a year. That's rough.
Yeah.
Which is why those guys don't want you bothering them when they're out drinking a beer. You know, like have a beer with them, talk to them, man. Ask them about the wife and kids. Maybe then they'll start like, you know, giving you tips and stuff like that. But don't ask them don't hang out with them. Hey, man, could you get me into scouting, man? Yeah, that's what they want to hear while they're just trying to unwind.
Right.
Yeah, I know if I'd be a scout, I wouldn't want to be pestered like, God, just trying to drink a Bud Light. Leave me alone.
Right, yeah, God.
Now we know what Brett was doing at the Senior Bowl when he was there.
Oh, I was chilling. I was watching people do that. And I'm like, kid, man, leave him alone.
Who was it that went and got a beer at 10 a.m.? Was it Kimmel?
Yeah.
Yeah.
10 a.m.
Everybody was staring them down, and I'm like, I mean, they're selling beer, like whatever. We're not here representing really much. We're just kind of hanging out, watching, and doing a show later about the day. So let's do it. Let's crack a beer. We were beer and sports. I mean, look at our logo in the corner there.
Right.
Well, boys, I think it's that time. It's been a little long in the tooth here. We're trying to get all the prospects we could because Mr. Vogel is a huge wealth of knowledge on the draft side and the prospects.
Well-versed guest.
All the work you do. Seriously, thank you for coming on, man. You explained a lot of stuff that a lot of folks, including myself, that I didn't know of, and on how to break stuff down and look at things. And we're so appreciative of for coming on, man.
No, thank you.
Yeah, we
guys
really
for
appreciate
the opportunity and all that stuff. That's what I appreciate you guys reaching out and getting me on. So
we'll definitely have you on throughout this draft process more,
next
man.
week or something.
Love to have you on.
You're talking quarterbacks. So we're going to talk quarterbacks exclusively. Like, yeah, that's a whole episode, man.
Oh yeah,
there's so much to get
on next
into
week.
Those guys.
Well, quarterbacks, they sell themselves, right?
The game sells itself, not just quarterbacks. It's just the game.
But everybody loves quarterbacks, man. Everybody loves quarterback talk. So, I mean, we can talk quarterback. We can do a whole show about quarterbacks.
Listen, Brett was ready to talk about, you know what? I need you to prep him next week for 2024 QBs because Miami is stuck with Tua. He is not happy about it. He wants to be informed about 2024 QBs.
I'm not big into 2024 yet. And it's because I got to get through this cycle first, right? I got to get through this cycle.
So I've already got the data.
Brett's
I've already got the 2024 database going.
No, don't get me wrong. I already got it going too. I took all the guys I scouted this year that didn't declare, went back to school, and moved them over already.
Right.
But
yeah, I got to get all the way back into it. I got so far out of it. So.
Well, also too, we have a show tomorrow night. It's Dolphins Draft Talk on the clock. And if you ever want to come on, I know Bobby, our producer, will definitely, and the guy who runs Fence Talk Sports Network will get you in. I mean, it's a really good show, good wealth of knowledge there too. And I know I'm on there, so if we're on the clock, and I know we'd love to have you. And
you guys have his Dolphins mock, and then or Dolphins draft talk, and then we go the second half
and it's on the clock
draft. Yep.
So just hit me up, and I'll see what I'm doing. I think tomorrow I've got a couple recordings I got to knock out, but. Yeah, just hit me up whenever, dude. You hit me up whenever, and I'll be like,
well, plus you're a veteran. You're a battle buddy, man.
Yeah, we'll definitely have you on more.
Exactly what it is.
Yeah, see?
Yeah.
But
there's going to be an open invitation for in the show.
Do you guys, does the Air Force use Battle Buddy? Or is that an Army?
No.
Oh, yes.
Army does. No, not really. It's what I think.
Just call each other wing nut,
right? Wing nut. Yeah, exactly.
We call it wingman. It was
wingman. That's right.
It's more like drinking buddy, but whatever.
God, well, you know what? Speaking of that, before I try and end the show, I do want to say, folks, if you're feeling you have to talk to someone about mental health or something's going on with you, a civilian, veteran, it's important to us. Please go ahead and reach out. There's hotlines all over the place you can call, and especially if you're a veteran, please. The VA has 24-hour hotlines. Please do not hesitate. Call it, and again, civilian too. Call anywhere that have that. You need that for your mental health, and it's good. I unplugged last night from social media and kind of went back on 9-10 a.m. this morning, just kind of getting away from stuff, and it'll wear on you. So yeah, please, even from that, or if you just want to unplug and go to do life, please go get your stuff taken care of first. Social media and everything else.
Take care of your mental. Step away from the phone for like 5-10 minutes. Give yourself a breather. Get some fresh air. It's
longer than 5-10 minutes. You need like
well, I'm just saying, give yourself time away, and take a breath and go enjoy some fresh air.
I go home every night, man. It's like it's unwind,
Yeah,
especially now, it's like I got to this point now where I got trolls that just randomly hit me up at some point, just randomly tag me and say something, and it's like, dang, it's like I'm accomplished. I'm accomplished, motherfucker.
We made it. When you got people waiting for your reply just to say crap, and I'm like, because I got a couple of Packers fan base, and I'm like, oh my God, Jen, I tell my wife, Jen, I did it. I made it. I got it.
You're there.
I told my wife I was getting drug in the comments. And said, I did this to myself. I trolled. I earned this.
I have to go defend him.
Brandon, I've seen some of those when you go viral kind of stuff. Like I've seen some of those.
I love it.
John,
I think it's funny as hell.
No.
And then people think I'm like really mad. I'm laughing. I'm like, this is actually fun.
No, and then he's laughing his butt off because I'm thinking this is like serious. So I go in swooping like Captain Save-A-Ho, and I'm like, let's go. I got Brett's back. And the next thing you know, Brett's like, dude, you know I'm trolling. I'm like, I just defended you with like 5 different guys. What are you doing? I know you're cracking up because I'm defending you tooth and nail. And you're like, Dave, I meant what I said.
I was trolling. All right, guys. What a great show, John. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you, guys.
Where can they find you at?
So you can find me on Twitter at Draft Vogel. I think it's right there in my handle. Let's see if I get it.
Yeah, it is. Yep.
Draft Vogel, right NFL Draft Blitz.
And then, NFL Draft Blitz. And then I guess it's not really something you can see, but I got into Dream Makers, and we just partner with Young Money, so we're managing their players. So that's been a lot of fun so far, getting into that, seeing the agent side a little bit more, and all the work that goes into that, and just the work that the guys do to get ready for a pro day or a combine. That's really been eye-opening a little bit too. So,
well, you know what?
There's
again, we loved having you on. Before we go into anything else and jump into other subjects, thank you again. Please like and subscribe. I know you've been here with us long, folks, so please like and subscribe. We'll be back next week, next Thursday. We do have a special next Monday for the legal tampering period for NFL free agency. I'll be going on at 12 p.m. Anybody is welcome to come on with me and be able to talk with the producer, and we'll prep for free agency as it's happening, where teams agree to terms and all that fun stuff. So, folks, loved having you on. John, loved having you on. Brett, yeah, I love you. And as all veterans in NFL, we got your 6.